Hey guys, welcome to another edition of our Children's Ministry Podcast, and today I wanted to talk to you about what it takes for God to use you. All of us are in children's ministry because we want God to use us to impact the lives of kids for the better. But what do we need to do, or what do we need to know before God can use us? And I have just been thinking about that because I want to be used by God, and which is why I do what I do. And so I came across this passage in Judges 6 and kind of have crafted this phrase that has clarified some things for me personally, and I hope maybe it will for you too. And that phrase is this: God doesn't need me to be perfect before he can use me. He just wants me to be willing. Let me say that again. God doesn't need me to be perfect before he can use me. He just wants me to be willing. And I came across this concept as I was reading the story of Gideon last year in Route 66. And so this is in Judges 6, verses 13 and 14. And it says, "Pardon me, Lord." So God has appeared to Gideon and has said, "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior." And so Gideon starts in with, "Pardon me, my Lord, but if the Lord is with us, why has all this happened to us? Where are all his wonders that our ancestors told us about when they said, 'Did not the Lord bring us up out of Egypt?'" And I think sometimes we wonder that. Like, sometimes we're just in our worlds or just in the world in general, like, where is God? It just doesn't seem like he's working like he used to, or like I wish he would. But now the Lord has abandoned us and given us into the hand of Midian. The Lord turned to him and said, "Go in the strength you have and save Israel out of Midian's hands. Am I not sending you?" And so here's what God is saying. He notice he didn't really answer the question. He didn't get into his thought process of it. Here's why I'm doing what I'm doing, or here's why it's taken longer than maybe you would have liked. God didn't talk about that. He said, "Go in the strength you have." And so here's what that means. It says, hey, you don't have all the answers. You're not going to get all the answers. I want you to go in the strength that you have. And the strength that Gideon had is the same strength that we have, that we can have, which is God's calling. God has sent us, He sent his Spirit. Go with that. And that's enough. You don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to have everything mapped out. You don't need to have everything figured out. Go in the strength that you have. And the strength that we have is the power of living an active Holy Spirit in our lives as Christians. Go in the strength that we have. You don't need to have it all figured out. And so that's a great reminder for me, because I have times where I have questions and I wish I knew those inside things that God has just for whatever reason chosen not to reveal to me, and at times that God chooses not to reveal to you either. And it's just a great reminder to me. God doesn't need me to be perfect before he can use me. He just wants me to be willing. And so I want you to think about that as you're in your small group with your kids, or as you're teaching, or as you're prepping materials, or as you're doing what you're doing in ministry. Just remember that God doesn't need you to be perfect before he can use you. He just wants you to be willing. And when you're willing to follow his lead, even when you don't always quite know how things are going to end up, God's going to use that for good.